Be an extraordinary leader, a vegan leader.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
What I'm doing now is to try and write in Elvish, because my writing is very inferior to the Elv. Their standard greeting when meeting, a star shines upon our meeting.
J.R.R. Tolkien, father of modern fantasy literature. Continue watching to find out more.
Saintly viewers, Kaish Tashiu, that's how are you in Manx, one of the official languages of the Isle of Man. I'm Connor. The gentle people of the Isle of Man thank you for always being loving guardians of our cherished animal friends through heaven's abiding care. Welcome to our show, J.R.R. Tolkien, father of modern fantasy literature. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, or J.R.R. Tolkien, was a renowned English writer, poet, and professor of ancient languages and philology. From his vast imagination, he created the fantastic world of AJAR, wherein lies the mortal land of Middle-earth, an immersive continent populated not only by men, but also by elves, dwarfs, hobbits, ents, orcs, trolls, dragons, and other mystical beings. J.R.R. Tolkien's intricate world of magic and fantasy took shape through an extensive series of published works that culminated in the hugely successful novels The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, both of which have been made into blockbuster films. J.R.R. Tolkien was born on January 3rd, 1892 to Arthur Reuel Tolkien and Mabel Tolkien in Bloemfontein, Orange Free State, South Africa, where his father was head of the local branch of a British bank. In 1895, his mother Mabel brought him and his younger brother Hilary back to England for an extended family visit. Tragically, his father passed away from rheumatic fever before he could join them, and they went to live with Tolkien's grandparents in King's Heath, Birmingham. Soon after, the family rented a humble place in Sarhol near Birmingham. Tolkien was homeschooled by his mother, who taught him many languages, including Latin. She also taught him botany, thus nurturing his love for nature. Mabel would often tell stories of epic legends and myths to stimulate his young imagination. By the age of 4, Tolkien could read and write fluently and was encouraged to read as much as he wanted. Sadly, Mabel Tolkien passed away in 1904 from acute diabetes. 12-year-old Tolkien and his younger brother were adopted by Father Francis Xavier Morgan, a local priest and close friend of his mother. Father Francis arranged for the boys to stay at a good boarding home and made sure that they received a good education. Tolkien attended the prestigious King Edward's School in Birmingham, where he formed the Tea Club and Bolivian Society, or TCBS, with 3 like-minded friends and aspired to change the world with poetry, art and literature. His close friendship with the members would help to inspire his future writing. After trying for 3 years, Tolkien finally won a scholarship in 1911 to Oxford University, where he studied English language and literature. In 1915, Tolkien graduated from Oxford with the highest level of achievement. In the following year, he married his childhood sweetheart Edith Bratt, whom he had met at the boarding home. Later that year, Tolkien joined the British Army and soon after was sent off to fight in World War I. 4 months later, he caught trench fever and was sent home to England to recover. Fever relapses kept him from rejoining the war until it ended. Tolkien was devastated by the loss of two close friends from the TCBS to the war, including poet Geoffrey Batch Smith. In 1920, Tolkien accepted a reader position at the University of Leeds and became the school's youngest professor 4 years later. While at Leeds, he published a Middle English vocabulary and co-published a definitive edition of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight with E.V. Gordon. Both books became academic standards for many decades. He also translated many important Middle and Old English works such as numerous King Arthur tales and the epic Beowulf. Tolkien returned to Oxford in 1925 to become the Rawlinson and Bosworth Professor of Anglo-Saxon with a fellowship at Pembroke College. During his tenure there, he wrote The Hobbit and the first 2 volumes of The Lord of the Rings. He had a stable family life with his wife Edith, sons John, Michael and Christopher, and daughter Priscilla. Tolkien went to Merton College in 1945 as a professor of English language and literature and retired in 1959. Tolkien's wife Edith left the world at the age of 82. He engraved Lúthien, the name of the elven princess in his fantasy world Middle-earth, on Edith's tombstone at Wolvercote, Oxford Cemetery. In September 1973, Tolkien died and was buried in the same grave with the name Beren, Lúthien's fictional husband, added to his tombstone. From the time he was a schoolboy at King Edward's School, Birmingham, Tolkien liked to read and was interested in fairy tales. He began to write the story of Kalervo as a student at Exeter College, Oxford, and later reformed the Kalervo character into the heroic Turin Tarambar. In 1917, during his period of recovery from the war, he stayed in Little Heywood, Staffordshire, and wrote the manuscript of the Book of Lost Tales, which was his attempt to create a mythology for England. All the manuscripts of the aforementioned stories and another mountain of papers were published only after Tolkien's death through the efforts of his third son, Christopher Tolkien. Tolkien's most celebrated books are The Hobbit, published in 1937, and The Lord of the Rings trilogy, which took him more than 12 years to finish and was published between July 1954 and October 1955. Among the trademarks of Tolkien's books are the fascinating fairy languages some of the characters speak, sounding out of this world, yet familiar. In developing the Quenya, Sindarin and other languages for Elvish in the tale of Middle-earth, Tolkien was seemingly much influenced by Finnish. He was, in his own words, quite intoxicated by the sound and style of this language when he discovered it. He also listed Greek, Latin, Spanish and other languages among his inspirations.
What I'm doing now is to try and write in Elvish. My writing is very inferior to the Elv. Their standard greeting when meeting, a star shines upon our meeting.
Peter Kreeft, the author of The Philosophy of Tolkien, the worldview behind The Lord of the Rings, believes that Tolkien started to invent special languages during his sick leave from war as a way to preserve his sanity, saying, "Here was a beautiful ordered world that he could at least create as an answer to this horrible disorder." J.R.R. Tolkien brought an abundance of natural beauty into his works, which expressed his extraordinarily intense feeling for an amazing ability to visualize landscapes. It seems that certain places from his background and life experience influenced the places he created in the tales. The Shire is the nostalgic, beautiful home of the hobbits in his books. In a newspaper interview, Tolkien revealed that the place was inspired by a few cherished square miles of actual countryside at Sharhole. This was the area where he lived with his mum and brother while growing up. Whereas his trip to Switzerland in 1911 gave Tolkien the idea for Bilbo Baggins' journey from Rivendell, the elvish space, to the misty mountains. Rivendell in Tolkien's drawing and illustration for The Hobbit is almost identical to a view of Lautenbrunnen Valley in Switzerland. Tolkien was a devout Catholic due to the influence of his mother and father Francis Morgan, who supported his family while they were in need. His faith is reflected in his writings. In a letter he wrote,
The Lord of the Rings is of course a fundamentally religious and Catholic work, unconsciously so at first, but consciously in the revision. That is why I have not put in, or have cut out, practically all references to anything like religion, to culture practices in the imaginary world, for the religious element is absorbed into the story and the symbolism.
Peter Kreeft states that in Tolkien's eyes, the world is a wonderful and terrible place, a place of striking beauty and danger at the same time, and that God hides himself behind different kinds of magic such as enchantment, divine providence, and strange coincidences. The world is a sacramental place where concrete material things happen. Even Gandalf the wizard, who is a kind of archangel, has to fight physically. We can learn much about Tolkien's philosophy and worldview from this passage from a letter addressed to his son Michael.
Out of the darkness of my life, with so much frustrated, I put before you the one great thing to love on earth, the Blessed Sacrament. There you will find romance, glory, honor, fidelity, and the true way of your love upon earth.
Decades after their publication, Tolkien's books continued to attract readers of all ages, and the stories are still relevant to today's world with its continued destruction of forests, the lost magical connection between humans and nature, and the ongoing struggle between good and evil in humans, hearts that manifests in the outer world. The date March 25th is Tolkien Reading Day, and the theme of Tolkien Reading Day 2020 is Nature and Industry, while that for the year 2021 is Hope and Courage, hosted by the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic at the University of Glasgow. In times of crisis, it's good to be reminded of the virtuous and down-to-earth hobbits in Tolkien's books, who remain courageous and steadfast in their faith, eventually finding salvation and returning home again. Cherished viewers, thank you for your company today during J.R.R. Tolkien, father of modern fantasy literature. May your hearts rejoice in the glory of God.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
برامجنا متوفرة بالعديد من اللغات. يرجى زيارة suprememastertv.com/schedule و suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Vegan leader, exemplary leader.